Alright, so I want to give you a tutorial on how to use blend shapes or shape keys in Unity and Blender. Particularly, this is going to follow along with the instructions inside of Blender the most in order to get this done. But there are a few things to call out for Unity itself that have created very difficult things. Like on this one, it expands out and things start flying everywhere, which is a very significant weakness of the bug of importing them into Unity. So I will cover on that topic as well. All right, and should be about there. All right, so let's pick a simpler object. So I had this idea of having a vent, an air vent, and it was going to be rather boxy in its shape. I wasn't using rounded corners or anything. That wasn't what I was going to use in real life for this. So I wanted this 45-degree angle here. So I could just go into Blender and shape it exactly how I wanted to. That wouldn't be too tough. But in this case, I wanted to make sure that I wanted it to be flexible because I didn't know what sizes I wanted. So I created this object that has two shape keys on it, and I named them top over and bottom up. So bottom up, oh yeah, I rotated the object 90 degrees, so there's a 90. Bottom up is now top over. All right, so on this one, what I'm moving it is taking this all the way from one corner and dragging it over to this side. So if either one of these moves all the way over, I've basically created a square. But I have one extra set of edges in here to make things, to be able to align things how I want. And if I want that 45-degree angle again, I can just say 50 for both of these. And now that is a 45-degree angle, and I've adjusted that. So how do we create this? Well, I'm going to go through Blender and show you every step of the way. So first off, let's bring up Blender. And let's move it into the correct window for the recording. All right. So inside of Blender, oh, and I should have showed that we're on version 2.92. I did download 3, but I haven't installed it yet, and I should. Okay. Now, on this one, we have a cube here, and this cube, I want to be able to edit it. But I also am going to be importing this into Unity, and there are two extra objects in here that I don't want to pull in. I do not want to pull in a camera into my scene. In Unity, I don't want to pull in an extra light. So I'm going to left click to select and then hit delete and do the same thing to camera. So I got rid of light and camera. Now I've got the cube. Now if I want to select things, I can click on the background with the left button of my mouse or the object. Now I'm going to include some extra steps along the way. It might go a little bit slower, but I've had too many Blender tutorials that I've followed where the instructor would skip a part or two, or the majority of the beginning of it on how they got to where they were in the first place. And then I would miss, there would be steps along the way I wouldn't know how to do. Okay, so in this case, first thing I'm selecting, so if I left click, I can select stuff inside of the scene, or select nothing, and nothing is selected. Anyway, I want the object selected. And I can use the zoom button to zoom in and out. And additionally, I can hold down the middle button to rotate around the object of focus, or the point of focus. Now another thing is if I want to move, I can hold shift and then press the middle button down and move my mouse over to adjust its position. But this was something that always threw me off in Blender to begin with. Now my focus point is this invisible thing. So now if I want to get back here, I have to try to get back over here. Okay, now I'm on there. But then when I rotate, okay, no, that's still not quite there. All right, shift, move that over. How's that? That's pretty close, but still not. If you want to get your focus back on an object, you select an object, which I'll just move out of the way. So I make sure I have an object selected and press dot on the numeric keypad. This object is now in focus. I can rotate around this. I can zoom out, and that focus point is still right there at the center of that object. Okay. Now that I'm there and I've got this object selected, I want to press S, which allows me to resize something. When I do that, by default, it's resizing on all axes. This time, I'm just going to select the Y axis, which I can do by pressing Y. I didn't click on anything yet. As soon as you click, it loses this resize tool, and now I can drag this to the size that I want. However, dragging this to the right size is not necessarily a good way to get the sizes you want. So I drag it to something close by, and then at the bottom here, a little property comes up to show the changes I just made. It changed this field to this setting. So this is 0.14, a whole bunch of decimals. That's going to be hard to align with anything else, and it just accidentally got to there. So since I don't have specific dimensions, I usually like to reset this to like something like 0.05. There. Now if I click off of it, that little property goes away. Okay, so I've got this object selected, and this is the board that I've created, which is pretty close to the size of this one, just without that corner missing. Okay, so now the next thing that I need to do is edit this. I can do that by going from object mode, I can go over to edit mode. Now I can do that this way, and that lets me select things. So I can click on this point and make sure that I have my move tool selected. I can drag and move things. And so that now reshaped the object, but that's not what I wanted to do. I can also select, that was up here with the vertex tool. Now I can also choose the line tool and pick a particular edge. And now I can move that edge around. And I've got a new shape for an object. Not really what I wanted though. And again, I can also select a face and take an entire face and move that around. But again, not quite what I wanted. All right, so in order to create this, the first thing I'm going to do is select the face tool. Now, a couple of shortcuts that are really useful here is instead of going to edit mode by just selecting this where it said object mode and hitting edit mode, I can hit tab. If I hit tab while my mouse is over this part of the window, if I hit tab while my mouse is over here, nothing happens. If I hit tab while my mouse is on this screen, I keep switching from object to edit mode. It's a good shortcut to know. And your hotkeys will change depending on what panel your mouse is over. Okay, so I'm in the object mode, or I want the edit mode, so I press tab again. Now additionally, if you want to select between vertice, edge, and face, you can press 1, 2, or 3. So I want faces right now. Now on this, I'm going to select this face over here by left clicking, and then shift left click on this face over here. So I get rid of 2 of these edges. I'm not going to delete them, but I will be in a minute. Instead, I'm going to right click and hit subdivide. That just divided it equally into 4 spaces. Each edge was cut in half. So we had another point added here, another one here, another one here, and they all met in the center. Additionally, it did the same thing to this side, and the new edges it created over here and here, it connected them. And they're already selected. This is super useful. So now I just hit delete. And when I do, it lets me select what do I want to delete about this. Because I've got faces selected, but technically I also have edges and vertices. I'm going to delete the faces. So I've deleted those, and that deleted all the stuff. If I deleted all the faces that were connected to a vertice, that deletes the vertice as well. All right, so the edges that are still connected to other things are still here, but I lost ones that were connecting this face over here. So now I want to rebuild these, because right now what I've done is I've recreated this general part of the shape, but it's not solid. I need to rebuild this side now. So let's do that. I'm going to select this edge over here, which I'm going to press 2 to select it, or to select an edge. I'm going to select this one over here. Now a shortcut is I could drag both of these and select them at the same time. Alright, so now that I've got them selected, I'm going to hit F. By doing that, that fills in the space. If I have 2 vertices selected and press F, it'll put an edge in between them, a line. So now I've got that one. Next, I'm going to select this edge down here, hit F. Did that automatically connect those? Wow, okay, I don't know if that just automatically connected it, but I meant to shift select these other sides as well. Now, there's a little thing going on over here where you see the edge, this one was cut in half before. And you can see it only selected half of it. So I need to select the other one as well. Now I'm going to press F, and this face is now wired in against all the other sides. If I pressed F before, I'm not honestly sure whether or not that would have connected all these other edges, even though they were aligned. Now I'm going to do the same thing up here. Select. Oh, and I'm going to show you another trick. If I select a region by just shift-clicking on the background and letting go, it only selected that point. But if I do it again over the same spot... Oh, hold on a second. There. So I have nothing selected. I'm going to hold shift and select here. Now I select everything that was in that region, entirely in that region. Still holding shift if I do this again. Now it grabs every line that was touching the region I selected. So there's a difference there. When I selected this, there's reasons why you might get different selections than you see another tutorial show. Or maybe I'll miss at the same time. Okay, so I was able to select that edge. Now I want to select the other edges too, so I'm going to select them. And then press F, which wires them all together with a new face. Okay, so we've got this object built up. Now we need it to be able to shape, to get those blend keys in. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit, and I need to go to the Properties tool over here. So on the Properties tool, it has these things called shape keys. So in Unity, they call it blend shapes. Over here, we call it shape keys. Now, keep in mind that Unity pulls in from multiple sources. So Blender is one source. So I'm sure blend shape actually ties in with at least one of the 3D applications that it connects to. But in this case, it's shape keys. So the first thing that you need to do is create a basis. This is the default of what everything else is built off of. That's your starting shape. So in this case, I'm just going to, with the object selected, oh, and see this plus and minus? No plus works yet. I have to escape edit mode. So I hit tab while my mouse is over here. And now the plus is enabled. And I can click it and I get what's called the basis. This is that first shape that everything else is supposed to be built off of. If I make edits to the basis, that is the object by itself. Okay, so I do want to edit the basis because these lines over here, like this one right there, I actually want that to be all the way in the corner like I would have for a triangle. Now, something that's particularly useful about this, let me Control Z, like where I cut that cut it in half, which is also the 1 meter point. Because when you create a default cube in Blender, the scale of 1 is from the center point. It's from 1 out. So the default cube is actually 2 meters across. And so when you import it, so anyway, your snapping grid, if I were to hold shift while moving, oh, not shift, control while moving these, it snaps it to different edges or to different places. In this case, if I snap it over here, I am at exactly the same coordinates as the previous spot. But that is also a point of a bug. If you have two edges that are in the two vertices that are in the exact same spot, when Unity imports it, it does its indexing of the objects by saying, okay, what position is that? And then it looks back through its list of vertices and it gets that position. It gets the index from that. Blender, on the other hand, does save the index position with it of which vertice you're actually selecting. But if you have two vertices in the same position, your blend shapes will get messed up. The way that the blend shapes in Unity work just doesn't import it properly. So in this case, I actually want that to be a little different. And it's the X over here, where I moved the X by 1 because I moved this. I moved it by 1. I'm going to change that to 0.99999. Just put 5 nines in there. So it is not exactly the same point. I don't want to go out like a dozen of these 9s because it has a limitation with how accurate it'll be before the floats in Unity start to assume that it's the same number. Okay, so now I'm going to select this other edge down here and do the same thing. I'm going to drag it down, holding Control when I did that, so it snaps to the bottom. And now it's to -1. Well, I'm going to change this to -0.99999. All right, so this is my basis. It's a triangle. And as far as anyone can tell with the human eye, you'd have to really get in there close. So I'm going to hit dot. Maybe I can see it if I zoom in really, really close. Okay, I think I can tell there's a second line there, but that's hard to say. Anyway, they're so close that there's no reasonable way in programs that you're going to see that edge. So let's start editing this. Let me hit F on a more central, oh, not F, that's Unity's focus tool. The dot on the numeric keypad. So now I have kind of a central point on this object selected. Now I'm going to leave edit mode. So this is my starting basis. This is where it's starting. The next thing that I want is, since I'm in object mode now, I am going to hit the plus while basis is selected. So now this is key 1. This is the first key of where something else might move to. So I want to think about what is that next point it should go to for this. So in this case, you also see it's relative to basis. So it's going to be changes that I make according to basis, where the points are on basis. Okay, so on this one, I select key 1, and I want to rename it. I'm going to right click. Oh, not that. Double click? Double click. Sorry, I forgot how to do that. All right, and this one I'm going to say is top over. So the idea is I want to take this piece up here and move it over to create my square again. Okay, so now I'm going to, with my mouse over here, hit tab, and you'll notice I have top over selected. That's important to keep it selected. And now I want to select this edge up here. Now I clicked it, and I'm taking advantage of a cheat that I have. Because of the fact that there are two edges so close to each other, I'm not sure which one I picked, except for the fact that one of the edges is still split on that previous line. So now I know I have this one. I can drag it over and I'm in good shape. But I want to hold control while I'm dragging it and move it back over, and that gives me my square shape. I held control until it snapped back over all the way to the edge, and I've got that perfect shape, which is 2 meters from that side. Okay. Now I'm done, and I'm going to exit that mode. I exit editing mode. Now when I did, it went right back to the triangle shape. I have top over selected, but there's a value here. If you drag this value, it now changes in here. That is the ability to change from one shape to another. So I'm going to leave that one at 0 and continue editing on basis. If you are going to be working with these shapes from where you transform something from one shape into another and then into another, and you are reusing the same points, that can cause more difficulties and complications than this. In this case, I'm keeping it a little more simple by using different edges that I'm moving, different sets of vertices that I'm moving around. It just happens to be what this one needs. But there is a natural complication if you don't. And that's sometimes the objects. If you choose just one blend key to move, it can operate a little bit oddly when you try altering it in Unity. Okay, so I'm going to select basis again and press plus. So on this new key 2, it's relative to basis again. And I'm going to change its name by double clicking. And I'm going to say bottom up. Now with my mouse over here, I tab into edit mode and I select this edge down here. Again, it's selected all the way across. So if I'm down here, which I think will be easier to select, and I click on one, no. Oh well, by just random luck, I'm not actually able to click on the one that was down here. So I can't really show you, but I did happen to select the one that goes all the way across. So holding the control button, I'm going to drag the axis up. And that dragged it up into a square shape, and I'm happy with that. So I'm going to accept it and I'll hit tab to escape this. And now again, it goes back to its basis model because the value of this is at 0. I test it out. Good, that works. I'm going to bring it to about 50% and go over to top and test that one out too. Good. Now I have this object. it works. I go Control-Shift-E to export, or wait, Control-S to save it in this case. Let me drag this into view, and I'll call it Blender Wedge 5. Save Blender file, and now let's return to Unity. So in Unity, I now have this corner wedge 5. I'm going to drag it in here and use the transform tool in Unity to move this over, and I've got this same wedge in here. And now I've also got those blend shapes top over and bottom up. There you go. That is the object. Or that's effectively how it works. Okay, if you have any questions, please feel free to add them to the comments. If you like the video and want to get more stuff like this, please like it, and I'll talk to you guys later.